Hello, everyone. This is Brian Lee. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Jan?
Yeah, we hear you clear. There's
Okay,
about
great.
11 people. They're all streaming in right now.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks again. This is Brian Lee, and thank you for having me in your Power BI user group meeting. I always been a supporter of local user group meetings, as you know we have here in Austin as well. And I know a lot of Power BI efforts are promoted and then review, and everybody sharing their know-how in the user group setting. So I'm great you're having such gathering as well. So this presentation was originally presented at the Data and BI Summit at Dublin, Ireland back in April. And that's where I met Jan there along, and thanks for inviting me to do this presentation for you. And then we have some updated material for today, given that the last 4 months there's been new development as well. All right, so the title is Power BI Premium Deployment and Governance in a Self-Service BI Environment at our company, NXP. And a little bit about myself. And I'm the Global Power BI Enablement Lead here at NXP. And this is part of the IT's Enterprise Business Intelligence Organization. And I guess people know me as the Power BI Chief Evangelist, since I'm the one that's working on various promotion and aspect of Power BI enablement. I'm based in Austin, Texas, here in the US. And here in Texas, a lot of people say the greeting, howdy, instead of hello or how are you. And Power BI enablement, what we do here is the effort of the enablement team is to promote Power BI across our corporation and provide Power BI training and consultation, user support, and also conduct proof of concept, do pilot evaluation of new capabilities, hosting in-house Power BI user group meetings, and we also work on looking at Power BI roadmap, doing the governance in-house, and also security consideration, right, for implementing the various capabilities of Power BI. And alongside with our key BI partners in the different organization and user champions, we instill a self-service BI model here at NXP. So a little bit about NXP Semiconductors. We have about 31,000 employees worldwide, 33 countries or so. And our headquarters in Eindhoven, Netherlands, which I think is less than 2 hours from where you are right now. So it's very close. And after the presentation, if you have any questions or suggestions, you may reach me via email or LinkedIn. Also joining me today, I have a teammate, Vanessa, who is shown on the lower right-hand side, and she'll be presenting a segment in today's webinar. And she's based in Taiwan, as another colleague of ours also in Taiwan. And we're a worldwide organization because we have users from across different time zones. So we have Jada and Krishna based in Eindhoven. I'm in Austin. And we also have another member in Mexico. So we have 3 time zones that we can more easily support the enablement effort across our regions in the company. Yeah, so I do have when I did the presentation in Netherlands, I have a quick audience survey. I think perhaps Jan will can ask the users there to see what their I guess, answer or result is on this survey, that will give you thinking about, okay, what the topic and what the attendees' focus or needs are, basically. All right, so
I'm setting it up now.
and while you're setting it up, I'll just speak to some of the things that we're asking here. Basically, right, for Power BI Premium, to manage it, to be a capacity admin, some of the role is tied to Power BI Service Administrator. And then there's also a capacity administrator involved. And also things to consider is how many users you have to decide whether you go with the premium purchase or stay with the per user license for pro license, right? So these questions kind of get you thinking, right? And also let me understand the audience need also.
So about 50% so far have voted on the first question if they are a Power BI administrator. About half of them, they are, and they have access to the Power BI administrator portal. About 1/3 of them, they are not an administrator.
Okay.
And that's
good.
what numbers are changing. About 90% of people have voted, and they stay about the same. 56% is admin and has access to the portal, and the rest is not an admin. Very few have no access to the portal.
Okay. Oh, good.
Okay, let's set up the next poll. What's your experience with the administrator portal?
Yeah, so basically next question is, how many of you already have Power BI Premium, right? Or your client have Power BI Premium?
Well, this is surprising. About half of the people have Power BI Premium or has clients with Power BI Premium.
Great.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah. We can share ideas or challenges, how you are managing your premium capacity.
Yeah. Did you see that new report that they just published about the premium capacity?
Yes. Yeah, very exciting about that.
Have you tried it out already?
Yes. Yeah, we both Vanessa and I have downloaded the app and been playing with it. And Vanessa also extracted some data from that app as well.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, I'll launch the next question. If people are considering to purchasing Power BI Premium capacity.
Okay, so that's for those who are not a premium capacity owner or don't have yet, but they are considering.
Yeah. Well, people who didn't have it yet, they are not considering premium capacity.
Not yet. Okay. All right.
If I'm going from the experience that I have here, it's due to cost.
Right.
The next question will probably.
That's right. Related to the next question, do you have approximately 500 or so Power BI users, whether it's developer or report consumers?
Yeah.
The reason for that question is that's kind of a borderline place where you might want to strongly consider Power BI Premium.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm tweaking the next question a little bit. Might give more insights.
Okay.
Because I'm actually curious now.
Oh, you're asking how many people, user approximately they have? Range?
Yeah. Indeed.
Good one. You know, sometimes it's hard to tell outside the pro license users how many report consumers you have, just because they could be deploying to a large organization. And I don't think Microsoft has a metric for that at the moment.
I don't know. I suppose they do have to follow it up in some way or another.
Yeah, perhaps the audit logs could produce that.
It's funny that you say that. I was talking with somebody just now about the audit logs and how they are useful to actually troubleshoot and to help govern your environment.
Right. The challenge with the audit log is because the recent GDPR regulation, companies more restrictive on giving access to the audit logs.
Yeah. So the thing that I do is I actually let some script run to parse them. And actually only export the metrics that we need without any usernames or stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't had the need for actually exporting usernames, see who is doing what. But yeah. So about 3/4 of the people have voted. 20% has more than 500 users. About the half of the people have less than 50 users. And 13% has between 50 and 100 users.
Okay.
And there's a bit 6% for each who has 100 between 100 and 200 and 200 and 500 users.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Good. Great mix of deployment size. Okay. Shall I continue? Next page.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so quickly to go over the outline of the presentation, I wanted to just, for the sake of folks that are not as familiar with Power BI Premium, to talk a little bit about Premium and its benefits, and then also talk about the Premium capacity, the different admin and permission roles, and then the governance role that we have, and then a role that we call capacity steward here, and what that person's responsibility and training entails. And then talk about how we do our deployment, what kind of guideline recommendation we have, what kind of training and self-learning that we promote in-house, and then the various usage and user metrics that we have as well. And then also complement that with a demo so you can see what we are talking about in slides. And after that, Vanessa is going to present how we do our pro license request process. You know, how we automated that for user to request, and then to share how with the premium, how the various Power BI free users can consume the content with the premium capacity deployed. All right, and then wrap up with some future consideration, references, and Q&A. All right, so for Power BI Premium, it is a capacity-based license model, meaning that once you deploy a premium license, the user report consumer, they do not need to have pro license to consume the content. So it's based on a server capacity, which becomes like a private cloud server for your organization. So now when you publish your content to a premium capacity, you're using your dedicated hardware and capacity that you have purchased, right, for premium. And then once you start sharing your content across the company, again, there's no individual license needed for the report consumer, which make it easier to manage as well. And another benefit is that there's less restriction at workspace sizes. Now you have 100 terabyte to use, so you don't really have to worry about the space. The increased refresh rate also is helpful if you have some more of the manufacturing or factory that needs the more data refreshes on their transaction or WIP data. A side benefit is that you could also have a on-premises reporting with Power BI report server, and that's for certain proprietary or confidential data that you prefer not to publish into the cloud. You could host it in an on-premise server. And I like this ease of scalability, upside and adding new capacity. Basically, you can treat the number of cores as a pool, and then you can easily divide up and say, I want 8 cores to go to this organization. I want 16 cores to a larger organization, or you can pool all the cores together into a very big capacity as well. And also something new, incremental refresh that was introduced a couple months ago. It's in premium, and so instead of refreshing your historical data of last 3 years or 5 years every week, you now can just refresh maybe 2 weeks worth of data or 10 days worth of data each week, and then get appended into the previously refreshed 3 or 5 year data. So yeah, so that will save your query resources quite a bit. And of course, there continue upgrade, and there's planned upgrade in the roadmap you can check out. Having said that, Power BI Premium is really more cost effective for a company with a large user base, right? Because of the cost structure and license cost. And we can look at that a little bit later in the price calculator. Just to show a little bit about Premium, how the different cores and capacity configuration are. So right now, the 3 capacity node level is the P1, P2, and P3. Each one has its number of cores, front-end and back-end cores. The front-end cores are used for the general user interaction, user experience, right? Opening the page, navigating through the report and dashboard, scheduling the report. So those are lighter duty workload. The backend core are the heavier duty workload, like your query processing, your cache management, Q&A, and all that memory management. So you can see at the different capacity node level, you have different memory size and number of cores, and you can deploy. As a first pass, you can use the premium capacity calculator to estimate your needs, right? But that's only an estimate, so I'll show you how that plays into it. And you can just start with the P1, and then you can easily upsize and add additional capacity node. And once it's purchased, the capacity is available for setup in the admin portal, right? So this is, once you have the premium license acquired, it is not assigned to a particular user, right? So it's not assigned to say, oh, a administrator of Power BI, but it's just there in your Microsoft tenant to be utilized and to be set up. And who has permission to set it up once it's purchased? Basically, either the Power BI admin or the Office 365 admin both have access to set this up in the Power BI admin portal. And the instructions are quite straightforward from Microsoft on that, and I'll show that page as well. All right, so the capacity admin, this person has the full control and is administrator of a given capacity. This is not the same as Power BI admin. Power BI admin has additional permission that to control the, for example, the tenant-wide settings and other access that capacity admin does not have. And who can assign someone to be a capacity admin? Again, you be either a Power BI admin or the Office 365 global admin can do that. And once the license is acquired, both Power BI admin and Office 365 admin are automatically the capacity admins for the company, right? And they have access to set that up in the admin portal. So the next section, user with assignment permission. So below the capacity admin, you could designate some users to have the permission to assign a workspace to the premium capacity, right? So for, and here in this interface, the menu is where you can add people's name to there. You can add a specific user to give that permission. You can even give it to a Active Directory group, a group of people, or the entire organization. Of course, that's not recommended you do it for entire organization. Otherwise, it would be harder to control your premium space. So our governance model, we have roles that we define. The primary role is our enablement team. So our team members, the ones in America, Asia, and Europe, our core team. So we are the one that the capacity admin with our company. And we basically we empower a small number of capacity stewards to help manage the capacity across their organization as well. And then we also train and enable a Power BI content developer, right, to understand their need, make sure that yes, they need premium or enable them to use premium for their reporting needs. And then we are responsible, we in charge of assigning and managing all the premium workspaces across the company. So for the capacity stewards that we work with, they are mainly the BI partner leads and the user champion from various organizations. All right. So the capacity steward, we do give them assignment permission, but this is a small group of key users that we give them access to, and they're generally knowledgeable in their business area, and they also train their respective areas content developer, right, to adhere to follow our guidelines and recommendation as well. So what do the capacity stewards do? So they may assign an App Workspace to premium capacity for their respective business functions and organization, but they are asked to always notify and include the enablement team member as admin, so we can help manage it. We can have access. We know what's going on, so it does not go out of control. And they also help train their report developers on best practices and guidelines, which we originally train, right, the capacity steward, or we train other developers as well. They also help foster and promote knowledge sharing within the organization, right? Because we have a self-service BI model. Each organization, we're encouraging them, we're enabling them to do more and more report development within their organization. So we are relying on this key user to help do that as well within their organization. All right, so what kind of training do we conduct for the capacity stewards? So of course, we need to show them what is the premium capacity, what its benefits, what the license model is. We also show them how to assign the App Workspace to premium, right? So they can help manage it. We also ask them to follow a certain naming convention for the App Workspaces. Reason for that is as your number of App Workspaces grow, it's harder to really discern where the App Workspace belong or which organization. But if you have a certain guideline, you can more easily just look at it and say, oh yeah, I know that from which organization and whatnot. And we also train them on the app sharing, or whether they prefer the report sharing, the dashboard sharing. There's different options of sharing. We show them that so they can better choose their use model and do a large scale deployment. We also train them on row level security setting in Power BI, especially useful for HR, finance, and sales and procurement type reports. And they take advantage of that, the built-in Power BI row level security. And we also show them how our gateways are set up and how they can, how we can give them permission for those who need, and how they can schedule refresh. And then, of course, whenever their developer needs a pro license, we show them how they could submit it for approval. So here are some high-level deployment guidelines that we have and recommendations. So the App Workspaces naming convention, we usually tell them to go either one of these two ways. First one is if you have a high-level organization, HR, then you go down to your next level type organization or report. So it's a top-down, or it's a business unit down to business line and to the next level. So you know where that report resides from an organizational standpoint. Another approach is if you have a project, a large project that involves many different organizations, right? So rather than having each BU have their own space and have the naming start with the different business units. So if you start with that project name or project area, and then underneath you have different organization, then when you're looking at the App Workspaces, all the name will be alphabetically listed together onto this project. Again, that's easier for us to just quickly visualize and see that, yeah, these are all pertaining to this project. As for workspace admin, we always ask our key users to have a backup or a co-admin, right, for their space. In case they're on vacation, they're leave the company, we can easily transfer this to someone else. And we also ask them to include our enablement team in there. So we can either do metrics. We have can see who are the members and help them troubleshoot when needed. Again, we want them to encourage collaboration, between their developers, so they can share knowledge and learn and grow together in the skill set. This next bullet, using the App Workspace OneDrive for report version control. This one is, the model has changed due to the recent new App Workspace experience, which is in preview just recently here in August. So right now, the new AppWorks experience, when you create an App Workspace, it no longer automatically create an Office 365 group, okay? So that means that you no longer have a OneDrive that ties to this App Workspace. So the past recommendation was that, hey, you can use the OneDrive to store all your Power BI desktop report for version control. But with this new experience, you don't have that. However, you can still manually associate a Office 365 group, back to the App Workspace if you like, right? And then you can use that for your version control. So it's still flexible enough that you can do that if you like. And the enablement team will provide training, and then along with the capacity steward, we train all the users in the organization. So for training, because we have a very large deployment and many users and many organizations, we have also different needs from the user. So we have different kinds of training offerings, right? But the enablement team, we are the main drivers of the training for the company. So we could do, we try to do on-site or in-person training when possible. It's 1 to 2 days, depends on the availability and also the material that we need to train, and that's on site. We travel to the site and we do the training. Or if certain groups require a more focused training, let's say they just need the Power BI desktop and service, and they do not need a Power Query or Power Pivot training, then we may do or they want to learn about row-level security with analyzing Excel. Okay, so we may do those focus training via Skype and remote session. We also do organizational training. Let's say a organization or a project, they want to do some reporting for their own data set. So we may help do some proof of concept and then do some more targeted, reporting for that training for that group. So what we suggest that you have is maybe a training course menu by tool and feature and training duration, so we can easily show your users, say, okay, if this is the time you have, this is your need, maybe we can offer you this kind of training, right? And one thing that helps us is we have our own user group meeting in-house. We usually do that every 2 months. We have a user group meeting. We invite all the users, we record the meeting, so those who cannot attend can always watch it. And we do it at the Asia and Europe region time, and we also do it in the America and the Europe time zone, so everybody can attend. And then we do hold office hours and consultation session with the user as well. So, just like you attend college, you have a professor, you have office hour, you can come and ask questions. And because we have a self-service BI model, we also promote self-learning. So we have the Power BI guided learning section, which is very good. And it depends on where you're logging in. When you go there, you may, based on your browser setup, you may just go directly to your own language, self-guided learning, right? So in our company, I got a lot of users that are in Asia, in China and Taiwan. They can go look at the Chinese guided learning, and those in Mexico, they can go look at the Spanish one. So it's very comfortable and easy to get started on that. This is a Power BI YouTube channel. And the edx.org, that analyzing and visualizing data with Power BI, has existed for 3 years now, and they have updated the course, but that's a very good one if someone want to sit down, do it, and have some assessment questions at the end to test their knowledge, and then have some example report to work on. And of course, Udemy, LinkedIn, there are a lot of other online resources. The one that we've been using this year also is the Microsoft Dashboarding a Day material. And we use that material for both in-person training, right? We also encourage or ask our user to do it for self-learning when they apply for a pro license. When a user comes to us, say, I want a pro license, I say, well, okay, you need to have some kind of training and background. So go ahead and go through the exercises in the dashboard in a day. So we do tie the license assignment to the dashboard in a day training. Right, so let me go through some of the usage and metrics and monitoring that we do, and then I'll show you this dashboard a little bit later in the demo. So here are some of the area that we're tracking, and we find it useful. For example, we look at pro license users, right? So we basically, the data source for that is we go to the Office 365 Admin Center, we export the name of the pro license users. Well, not the name, the information about the pro license user, so we can include that in our reporting. We also look at all the various Power BI related installation that people have on their machine. So this is from our Microsoft SCCM database, where it shows each of the machines and the type of installation available. So the ones that we track, for example, is Power BI desktop installation, Power BI publisher for Excel, people that may have a gateway installed on their machine. And also, if you still have Excel 2013, and then people may have the Power Query plugin for Excel, which you had to download separately. So we also check that to see how many people still have that. And one thing we can check with that, if the installation is, the versions, you can say, oh, how long ago did this person install the Power BI desktop, from the version. If the version is 10 months ago, 6 months ago, it's likely that that person is not actively using Power BI desktop, right? So you can kind of know what your usage and the population on that. And we also check our gateway and data sources that we have. And the way we do that is we use the Power BI REST API to get that data from the different app workspaces. We also check our Power BI dataset refresh history, also getting the data through the REST API. Same thing with the app workspace and admin members. One thing that we plan to do, we have the data, we just haven't built a report, is we have an enterprise data warehouse that we use in the company. It's a company-wide big data warehouse. So we are tracking the queries from Power BI that goes against this enterprise data warehouse, whether the query comes from Power BI desktop or Power Query, which show up as the mashup engine query, or Power Pivot, which shows up as an Excel query, right? So we can then see what your user population, what kind of tool they use, what percentage of people use this tool versus that tool, and also how how many queries over the span of how much time they're querying. So all those are very useful metrics. And then we combine all those metrics into a consolidated Power BI reports for ease of consumption. All right, and like Jan mentioned, yesterday Microsoft announced the Premium Capacity Matrix app, which is available to capacity admins. So this is very exciting news because the monitoring of the data sources, the data set, the memory usage, the memory thrashing and the premium space has been a challenge, right, to do. And so now having that will help all the capacity admin do their job more easily. All right, so enough talking. Let's do a little bit of demo, more action here. All right, so we don't need to go through this, read through this list. I'll just do the demo. Basically, the demo will cover all these items in here. So let me get my browser window. Let me start with this. This is our in-house Yammer group for Power BI users. So we use this forum to make announcement of new releases, announcement of training opportunities, providing tips to the users, allowing user to ask questions, and we have either enablement team or fellow users who help answer the question. So it's a forum, instead of going to the outside forum for a lot of maybe in-house related question or general question, we do that. We have this forum that allow the user to do that. And then every week we provide a tip to the user, and then they can keep interested and then help them grow their skill set as well. And then we also share success story, right? Someone say, oh, this is really good use of Power BI in their organization. And we also share posting that any big announcements from Microsoft we will share with our users as well. And then you can see your organization grow and more developer join, and then your membership grow, and then the experienced users, right, also contribute to the forum. So that relieve your enablement team from having to answer every single question that posts in the Yammer group. So it's a self-growing, self-support, kind of environment where users help each other in growing the knowledge and helping troubleshooting. Right? So next one is when you're considering purchasing a premium, right? You say, well, is it really worth the cost, or how much does the P1 licensing get me, right? How big of a deployment I can get from a P1? There's a premium calculator that Microsoft provided. Again, this is a very rough estimate, and you only have 3 variables to play. Basically, you set how many users you think you have, right? And then how many of that would be a pro user, meaning that they will be developing reports and sharing with report consumers. And how many of the report consumers are frequent users consuming the material, and there's a definition on that at the bottom. And how many are occasional users? So you plug in, you play around with the numbers. You can change around, and then once you calculate that based on the number you say, you see that the recommendation is that, okay, you can get by with 1 P1 license, right? And then the cost of that is, this is the retail price. I guess depends on your contract and your size with Microsoft, the price will vary. And then this is the number of license for the developer here, right? And that's the regular cost. And so the reason I asked whether you have 500 users or no, users, consumer or developers, the reason I ask is because the cost of the P1 license, it's basically 500 times the individual pro license cost, right? So that's a vague, rough starting point to start looking at your usage and whether premium makes sense or not. But then let's say you say, well, what if I have 1,500 people, right? You calculate, you say, well, if the pro users, developers 5%, and then the same ratio, then it still makes sense at P1. But you say, well, maybe I have a lot of developers, right? But not as much spread in report consumers. How is that picture do? Oh, good. You still can manage that, and so you can play with that and see what's your starting point, right? Might be, or how far can P1 takes you. But of course, this one is not a very accurate indicator. Really, you need to look at the metrics and all that, and the user experience. But this is a good starting point. The suggestion is you start with the P1 license, right? If you're getting close to that cost break-even point. Next thing I want to show is the capacity setting. So for a premium capacity setting, the way you access it, right? You go to your manage, you go to your admin portal. So for a capacity admin can see this tab. For Power BI admin, you can see all these, all the tab on the listed on the portal. So under the capacity setting, you can set up a new capacity if you have a new license, and then I can show you that okay. So basically, if you have a new license available with this 8-core, 16-core, you can click on this set up new capacity, right? This is the documentation for Microsoft. You can basically just set up new capacity, and then you can choose how many cores you want to assign to that new capacity, 8-core, 16 cores, right? And then once you choose the name, are the admins, what's the size, and then that's it. You click setup, you run, go through the Azure cloud, and then get a Azure, the corresponding number of cores set out in your region. I guess by default is in where your tenant is resides, right? If you're a Europe-based headquarter, then by default is in Europe. But they recently came out with the you can assign a different region for your capacity, so then you have to choose for that. And the recommendation is if your capacity would be querying a certain data warehouse or certain data source more frequently, where that data source resides, then that'd be a best place to put your capacity at, to be closer to your data source. But of course, sometimes it's not straightforward. Your data source could be many different servers across the region. Then you have to try to decide how to best do that, right? And then so that's basically how you set up a new capacity. And then once you set out a new capacity, you can then make changes to who will be the capacity admin and who will have permission to assign workspaces to premium. So capacity admin, so our region is North Europe because NXP is based in Eindhoven. So capacity admin, so this is an enablement team, right? So we keep that to our team only. And then user for assignment permission, we can have a set of small key users that have the ability to assign App Workspace to a premium, but they have to know their responsibility, and we have to train them to be clearly following that guideline as well. And just to show you a sample of the list, right, of the app workspaces, right? So as I mentioned earlier, if the naming convention you have if they follow a naming convention you set, then you can easily see where that app workspace is based at or what organization it belongs to. So these are start with the AT, and then different character after that. And then we know that it's from our assembly and test houses, right? We have in Asia, we have 4 different assembly and test locations. So we can easily see that, okay, these are all from there. Or if it's a certain business line, then we know that, oh yeah, this is all from this group. So you can easily see that, and then you can also, finance grouping. You can also see who the admin is from here quite easily. And then you know that who you can contact and get in touch if needed. Okay, so now how do you assign App Workspace to a premium capacity? So if if you want to promote an App Workspace to premium, right? So the person who can do is either the capacity admin or person with the assignment permission. So the way you do it is you basically create the App Workspace, and either during the creation process, the new user experience does not have, you do that after you create an App Workspace. So after you create an App Workspace, you can come edit the App Workspace. And here on the advanced, you can either turn it, by default it will be off, right? And you can turn it on to be in the premium space. So it's that simple, just to turn on the capacity, and then you're ready to go. And then by doing that, in the background, they will move your App Workspace from the shared cloud, Microsoft Power BI cloud, into your dedicated capacity. All right. So one recommendation that we have is you tell the users that do not put their own workspace into premium, right? And the reason we have that guideline is in people's own workspace. Oftentimes they upload test reports, sample reports, and other things that they may be doing that is really not ready or not meant for sharing with other users, right? So there's no need to put all that extra reports and burden onto the premium capacity. So you basically set a rule and say, okay, don't put any of your personal workspace material or workspace into premium. And you can easily audit that in the list of workspaces, right? I mean, we have one here that we know that is there, but it's for a special use case. So you can see that this is my workspace. So if someone has my workspace in there, you can easily tell that here. All right, so now, oh, one more thing. So when you're publishing the app, so, when training your user about publishing their app, one thing that we make them aware is that they could, just for ease of getting the report consumer to consume the app itself, it's easier to have the developer just select this option to install the app automatically. That way, the report consumer doesn't have to go to the app source and they go download the app when they go in. Because a lot of the report consumer are new to Power BI and they may not know that, oh, okay, I have to go to the app source and download. Or they may not have the original link that links to the app. So having this app automatically installed, it's helpful. Just the user experience, the user able to access the app directly. All right, so let me now show you a little bit about our tracking metrics. So we have the first tab is our, okay, I'm making this window, yeah, this is a smaller window so you can see. So this one is our data set refresh history. So this is just a, for demo purposes, this is a reduced, it's a sample data set, but you can get the idea of what we're trying to track. You can see number of successful refreshes versus the failed refreshes, and then which App Workspace have the top number of data set refreshes and what percentage pass or fail, right? So you can easily track that and see. And we have in using the bookmark, we have it in the visual mode or a table mode, right? In case we need to, well, for cases where we want more detail, we can go to the table mode and see more clearly. And then that information comes from REST API. We use REST API. It's an app on Azure that we have to create and get the proper permission and write the use PowerShell script to issue the REST API calls, right, to the various data app workspaces and data set to get information back. And here again, we track the gateways and data sources, right? We pin the gateway and data sources at the regular interval, right, to see whether they're active or something's wrong down. So we can also monitor over time, right, what the usage or issue and whatnot. Again, we also have table to view that. Next one is the workspace users, workspace end users. We look at various departments, whether the workspace is premium or not, what organization has the most workspaces, who are the top pro license users have the most workspaces. And for pro license users, so this information comes from the Office 365 Admin Center, where you can go extract the list of pro users. And then we do a join, data join with merge with our employee table. So we can discern, okay, what organization they're from, what region they're from, who their managers are, and then we can see how deployment is going and what organization is taking advantage of Power BI in their organization. We also track the different installations, like I mentioned earlier, where we look at Power BI Desktop, Publisher for Excel, Power Query. As you can see here, the revision, the current revision is 2.61, right? But then we have user. This is the oldest version we see here. For example, is a 2.25. Then this is a long time ago. Maybe this is an old machine that people no longer use, right? Or maybe a user just did a trial and they decided not to use Power BI. So at least you have some data set to go by and see what your installation base is. Again, by region, by organization, and the type of installs. Again, visual and table. So these are the things that we do internally. But then yesterday, Microsoft released this new Power BI Premium Capacity metrics, which looks very promising. A lot of information that are useful to capacity admin. And then according to the blog, they are continuing to add more feature right over the next few weeks and months. So that's really exciting to see, to hear. And this is just an example of, this is a summary tab, the capacity, the data set, workspaces, how much memory average you're consuming, highest utilization, because a P1 license has 25 gigabyte, it push a limit, sometimes. And number of refreshes that failed, and out of memory, et cetera, et cetera. Again, the refreshes, look at workspace name, dataset name, total counts, what reliability you see on the refreshes, wait time, right? If you see a big wait time, something is off, so you can investigate. And and how much consumption you have. And something spiked this one day for some reason. This is the wait time was really, really high. So then you can see whether there's any network issues or database issues or what that you could investigate. So that's good. Data set, total number eviction. So eviction means if you have P1 license, you have 25 gigabytes of memory to store the most recently used data set, right? But if you have a lot of multiple data set that refresh at the same time, or new refreshes that come in, the older data sets, right, get evicted if you're pushing the 25 gigabytes memory while refreshing. So you can see, okay, how much memory eviction and memory consumption you have. So you can see at the time of the day, right? So what time of the day you're getting the most usage. So perhaps from there, you can feedback to your user and say, oh, certain time the server is really busy, memory is really tight. If people can spread their scheduling out, that will help alleviate the problem some. Or if you're constantly getting memory eviction, that's time for an upgrade. So yeah. So these are pretty nice metrics, useful metrics. And so it's good timing. They just announced it yesterday. Last night I was looking at the material and I saw the blog. I said, well, great. I can include this app in the presentation today. All right, so that's all I wanted to demo. Oh, I guess one thing about the OneDrive. Yeah. So if you have an App Workspace and you want to save your Power BI desktop report, do a revision control within OneDrive, you can go to App Workspace and go to File. And this is if you have an Office 365 group tied to this App Workspace. You can just go to the file, and you can store store your file here. And as you know, OneDrive and SharePoint, it has an automatic version control. If you save the same file name in here, you will keep your previous version available. All right, so that's my part of the presentation, and then I have Vanessa do her part, and then I'll come back to do a quick wrap up for that. So Jan, can you enable Vanessa to share?
Yeah, I'm on it right now. Make presenter. Yep. Pretty late.
Thank you, Brian. I'm sharing my screen now. Let me know if you're able to see my desktop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, we see this well.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa, and in this segment, I will be introducing the Pro license request process in NXP. So here at NXP, we use Microsoft Flow to drive this time saving in our Pro license request process. So in this diagram, we list 5 applications that are used to automate this process. And so the flow is triggered when a user submits a form in Microsoft Form. And we use the Office 365 users profile to get user and their managers' information, like their name, location, job title, etc. And the next is to send out an approval email to our enablement team members. So if anyone from the assigned list gives approval or rejection, this flow will go to the next step. And based on the approval result, an email with that result will be triggered and sent to the users. And it's important to know that no matter if the request is approved or rejected, the form result and the submission details will be stored in the Power BI streaming dataset. And then we use the dataset to create a real-time report in Power BI. So this slide shows the Pro license request flow in NXP. And as stated, a user needs to fill in the request form, answering some questions so we can understand their use model. Then based on the region the user is located in, the respective regional admin team will review the submission. So once we finish out an evaluation, an automatic email with an approval or rejection and a reason why will be triggered. If approved, then we will begin the assignment of the new license. And user will be expect a 5-day wait, but if there is an emergency case, we can always expedite the process to 3 days. And the best part is this automation has saved the Power BI admin team 75% of the time required to complete the license request process manually. And the bonus, it is also easier for us to manage and monitor the request. So we are also planning in release the same approach for the premium request. All right, then next we will move on the segment of content access scenarios for free users. And in this section, I would like to share some scenarios that we have tested when free users consume the shared content. Listed in this table are several ways of content sharing in Power BI that you might be familiar with. So when Premium is implemented, free users will be able to consume the shared content. And on the top 2 rows of the table is the peer-to-peer dashboard or report sharing. So if that report or dashboard resides in an App Workspace that is assigned to the premium capacity, the recipients can be free users. And for the publish to web sharing, the license is not required. So the report you publish can be viewed by anyone on the internet. So you need to be aware when you are using this method, especially if your data is confidential. And for embed in SharePoint online method, as long as your app workspace is in premium capacity and you've shared the report to the free users either by publishing the app or added the user as a member of the app workspace. The free user can view the report embedded on SharePoint Online. And for collaboration in App Workspace, the Pro license is required to access App Workspace. So free users cannot access the App Workspace. For publish app method, similar to the peer-to-peer dashboard sharing, app consumers can be free users if the corresponding App Workspace is in premium capacity. And the last scenario is the analyze in Excel method. So with premium, free user can consume the analyze in Excel files created by pro user but cannot create one themselves. And we will explain this approach later. So let's take a look at some scenarios. The first is access app workspace. So it does not matter if the app workspace is in premium capacity or not. Free user will be asked to upgrade their account to pro when they're trying to access any app workspace. So in conclusion, free users cannot access app workspace. The next is access published app. So when free users try to access a published app published from an app workspace that is not in premium capacity, they will be asked to upgrade their account to pro. However, thanks to premium, free user can access and view the content in the published app that is published from a premium app workspace. So you can see a difference that if I publish from the workspace with diamond and not with premium capacity, then the user will get the different result. The next is peer-to-peer report or dashboard sharing. So similar to the access publish app scenario, free user can access a report or dashboard that is residing in premium app workspace and shared by pro user using the share button on the Power BI surface. And in other words, free users cannot access the report or dashboard that resides in the normal app workspace, even though the pro user has shared with them. The next scenario I would like to talk about is the analyze in Excel feature. And the add-on here is that this capability is one of the reasons that our developer love Power BI so much, is because it aligns very well with NXP's internal reporting structures. So the first scenario tells that free user cannot create an analyze in Excel file through the function button on Power BI surface. So just like the screenshot shows on the slides, that free user cannot, when they click on the button, they will be required to upgrade their account to Pro. So, but don't be sad. Let's take a look on the second scenario. So here we've listed the approach that allows free users to consume the analyze in Excel file. So first, again, the app workspace where the content is residing should be in premium capacity. And then next, the Pro license user can generate the analyze in Excel file and save as a normal Excel file. Then the free user can build pivot table, chart, and use slicer in Excel based on the data set that exists in Power BI. So in cases at NXP, developers will upload the analyze in Excel file to a SharePoint site and allow the free users to just download from the SharePoint site and play with it. And then extra benefit worth mentioning is that if you have row-level security implemented in your Power BI report, the same row-level security is applied to the analyze in Excel file. And also the data set is refreshed kind of like centralized on Power BI service. So it does not require the end user to apply the database access and perform the database refresh whenever they load the reports. So the last scenario shows that free users can contribute to the development process even without having a pro license. So this means that developing a report in Power BI Desktop does not require a license. And the add-on here is free users can connect to the dataset that is residing in Premium App Workspace using the Get Data Power BI Dataset functions. And as long as they are the free user, as long as the free users has been added as a member or admin of the App Workspace, they can connect to the dataset in the App Workspace. And after the report creation, free user can publish the report to the workspace where the dataset resides. So this is a very good feature that also using NXP a lot, that allows free user to, or even really the developer, to connect to the dataset and then publish their report to the App Workspace. All right, this concludes my part, and I hope you have gained some insight about implementing automated process with Microsoft Flow and sharing content with free users in your own company. I'll pass it back to Brian for our conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah. And Jan, can you bring back the presenter to me? Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Vanessa, and good night. It's pretty late.
Oh yeah, Vanessa is almost 2 a.m. in Taiwan right now. So yeah, so let me do a quick wrap up. So for future consideration, as mentioned by Vanessa, we plan to do our premium App Workspace request process the same way as our current Pro license request, to go through the Microsoft Flow to manage the forms and then the acquiring the information and also the email approval. That help us automate and also keep track of the data. Also for the monitoring, capacity monitoring, of course, the good news that Microsoft have the new monitoring capability. Additionally, if you do see that certain reports are actually consuming a lot of memory, or the query performance is not on par, or just stands out to be odd or consuming inefficient, there's tools that you can use to analyze that. So there's a Process Explorer tool that you can use alongside Power BI Desktop to analyze the memory utilization, right, of a certain reports. There's also a SQL Server Profiler tool that you can use alongside Power BI Desktop, right, to assess your query performance. And both of these tools is in one of the white papers that I included in the next page that you can take a look. And then our company is looking at adding additional capacity. And then the capacity, like I mentioned earlier, you can add another 8 core, 16 core, and you can decide whether dedicated capacity should be assigned to maybe a certain organization or certain area of the company, and then another capacity set aside for the rest of the company, right? So you have that flexibility and choice, and easy to upside and change. So last page is all the references from a lot of information outside our internal, NXP deployment and governance. So a lot of general information are useful information on these white papers, and the tools I mentioned about the how to check the memory and query efficiency is on the 4th bullet, premium capacity planning and deployment white paper. So you should take a look at that one if you haven't done so. And if you're interested in downloading the dashboard in the day material from Microsoft, you can go to this link below and you can download it, look at it. It could be useful for you for either people that want to learn Power BI, or for you to do some training or overview for your users. All right, that concludes our presentation. And I don't know how much time, Jan, you have. We still have available for Q&A, if any, and you can relay those questions to me. Yeah.
Well, we didn't have any questions from the webinar attendees so far. One guy, Ruslan Zolotukin, he remarked that it's actually a big minus for him that Power BI Premium doesn't have have the ability to be paused, unlike other infrastructure as a service things.
Doesn't have the ability. Sorry, it doesn't have ability to do what?
To be paused. So if you're using it only like half of the time, it can't be paused. You can't save costs.
That's right. That's right. It's different than some other Azure offering where it's based on usage. You know, based on usage or the time, then you pay for that. And no, Power BI Premium, you basically just you pay on the monthly subscription, and even if you don't use it, you still have to cover the cost.
Yeah, indeed. I'm looking at the local audience. If you have questions, you can come over here if you want.
Hi, Brian. Just
Hello.
a question from my side. So basically, it's about the premium capacity you talked about. If I would just create a Power BI data set running on top of, for instance, analysis servers, would it make sense to have a dedicated capacity for my data in Power BI or not really?
Well, we have a lot of user actually connects to analysis services by direct query. So yeah, if you use the direct query, then it does not make sense to bring the data set into Power BI. So, but we also have people that do import the data into Power BI because they want to do additional modeling of their data from analysis services or things that you cannot do in direct query, right? And also Power BI now offer this common data model. Now you can get from multiple, you can graph from direct query, you can graph different data sources together and do a common model. So that's been very helpful for some users as well. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered your inquiry.
Sure, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Looking at the other people? No? Okay. Well, that's it, I suppose. Thank you very much for doing this, especially Vanessa. It's probably late for you.
No problem.
Yeah. Some webinar members also saying thanks through the chat. So yeah, we all love it, the fact that you presented this.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a
you.
pleasure. Yeah, to present to you. And then again, any question or any suggestion for us, you may contact us, and we'll follow up.
Okay, cool. Thank you, and see you again at another conference somewhere.
Yes, hopefully, yes. All right. Okay, thank you. You have a
Thanks.
good
Thank you.
evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.